Right. Well, good morning for me. Good afternoon for most of you in Portugal, in Europe, and so forth. My name is Rick Fernandez. I'm going to be talking to you today about the new ISO 6000 series of standards on innovation management standards today. A little bit about myself. I'm the president of 2020 Innovation, joint venture between Strategy Associates and Advent Group, two very well-known companies in the consulting field, and we've been focusing on innovation now for about 20 or 30 years, calling it different things. Now it's all called innovation management. I'm the vice chair for the U.S. team that's leading the development of the TC 279, which is everything about innovation management for the United States. And I have been a co-author of the Framework for Innovation book, which we'll show you at the end of the presentation, about total innovation management excellence, which is the future. We think is the future of innovation, an integrated framework for that. And way back in 1998 or something like that, Total Quality in Purchasing and Supplier Management. I mean, I haven't had that many books, but at least I've done a few books. I've also been examiner for the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award and some other quality awards in the past. So let's get started. So what is innovation, and what is it that you can do to accomplish it? What can you accomplish with it? And also, how can you possibly manage innovation? Innovation is something that's creative, right? How can you manage that? There's a lot of confusion about innovation. The United States, for example, okay, in the past, we're always number one in anything that had to do with innovation. Well, that's no longer the case, because competition is now grabbing our space. As a matter of fact, with the Global Competitiveness Report, we're now second overall, but in the innovation side, okay, we're actually still in our innovation ecosystem is still number one, but a lot of other areas we're no longer number one. And Korea and Switzerland and Finland and Sweden, are way ahead of us. So we got to get our act together. Bloomberg puts out 7 innovation metrics, which include individual metrics and group metrics. So it includes high-tech density, meaning the high-tech availability within the country, manufacturing availability, researchers, how many researchers do you have, how much R&D is being spent, what is the patent activity, and what is the tertiary efficiency, meaning the conversion rate between that spending and the patents. Well, now the real truth hurts, because now the US is not even in the top 10 anymore in terms of innovative economies. Korea is number 1, Singapore number 2. Portugal and Spain are not there, even though Portugal and Spain were the place that innovation management standards started. Switzerland number 3. So you can see we have a long way to go now in the United States and in Latin America. So it's counterintuitive, right? How do you standardize innovation? Well, you're not really going to standardize innovation. You're going to manage innovation. And we were going to talk about a standard that helps you manage innovation. Quickly, in terms of the history of TC 279, which is the group that's putting together for ISO, the innovation management standards, it started in Spain with UNE 166002 in 2014, where they developed the R&D and investigation management system requirement standard. Then Portugal came out with number 2, okay? After that, Mexico, Ireland, and then eventually we all got together, 59 different countries, and worked together to come up with the Innovation Standards 56,000 series, which I will go through in a second. So it's 59 countries right now participating. Obviously Portugal is, Spain is, the secretariat is out of France for the innovation management system. For us in the United States, we work through ANSI. ANSI is the US representative to ISO. You have ISO technical committees. ISO technical committees, for example, for those of you who have experience in ISO 9000, their technical committee is TC 176 for quality management system. Ours is TC 279 for innovation management systems. And the US TAG works through ISO here and then through the ANSI Standards Alliance, which combines help for many other countries that need help, like developing countries, South America, especially in Africa, and through IOIP. And I'll mention a little bit more about IOIP later. I am the COO of the IOIP, which is the International Association of Innovation Professionals. And it's something that you should consider being a member of if you're not already. In the US, we started out with about 42 members, but a large majority of them are consultants and universities and maybe some high-tech people in the team that were in the US team. We're looking to expand that to more people, but more importantly, to have a better cross-section of the industry to represent all the whole economy in the United States. For example, we went from, I think it was like 2 members when ISO TC 276 started, 279, I'm sorry, TC 279 started. We went from 2 members at the first meeting to then we had the largest delegation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members. We had the largest delegation when we had the last physical conference in Sweden, in Stockholm, in May 2019. So the US has really improved there. Other countries, of course, are probably right up there with us, which is like Sweden, Portugal. Joanne from Portugal is the secretary for all of the 56,001 Task Group 1 meetings, and she's been instrumental in making it happen. And then from Spain, we have people that are representing Spain now. Leo Colombo, who heads up the group, who used to be from Argentina, he now moved over to Barcelona. So now he's from Spain too. So it's all, Europe is leading the charge. Okay, and I'm very happy to see that you're all interested in this. So what is the innovation management model framework? It's a combination of, for now, the ones that have been published already, 56,002, which provides the high-level structure and the system approach to innovation, 56,003, which provides information about the partnerships, about open innovation, about working with others and with other interested parties. 56,004, which has to do with assessment. 56,005, which is on intellectual property, extremely important area that has to do with innovation management. And lastly, strategic intelligence management, which is just about to be published. So this is the overall structure of all the standards. The main standards is under work group 1. And initially it was developing 56,002, which for now is still like the mother standard. I'll come back to this one in a second. 56,000 is all the terminology. That was done back in September 2019. This was done in July. Then this was very difficult to read. People were complaining that it wasn't as understandable. So we decided that we would have a layman's terms standard that's currently being developed. Should be out by 2022, early 2022 probably. Tools and methods. That's all the tools and methods that support the 56,001 or 2 standards. And that includes, I already mentioned some of them, 3, 5, and 6. Well, what I haven't mentioned is 7, which is very crucial. It's idea management. And as you'll see later, when I talk to you about operations within innovation operations, you'll see that idea management incorporates the first three areas, the first three processes in innovation. And this is about to come out, should be out in 2022 as well. And then this one here is on innovation operational measurements, 56,008, also being worked on right now. I'm the co-lead with Soren Cohen out of Canada. And I think we have a pretty good standard coming up from this one. And lastly, I mentioned already the assessment standard. Now, going back to here to 56,001, this was just approved. The work item for this just got approved probably, I don't know, a few months ago. And we've already had a few meetings, having another meeting coming up in November. Basically, this is going to be very similar to the 9001 standards in terms of the high-level structure and the requirement specs. But instead of being focused on quality management, it's going to be focused on innovation management. So it'll take the 56,002, which is a guidance document, and move it to a requirements document level. If you have any questions as I go through, please put them in the chat, and Karina will mention them. And if you want, we'll have a Q&A at the end, but you can start putting them in there now. So at the end, we can discuss them all. Okay, so for innovation management, we follow the following principles. One is realization of value. Why is that important? Well, see, the difference between an innovation and an invention is that an invention, there's many inventions. You could look into most of your patent offices, there's thousands of inventions, but they really don't become an innovation unless they add value, unless you can put them to work, unless you can put them into a process or make them part of a new product, or combine them to make a new product, or get into a new market and add value. The key word is value. If you can't add value with that innovation, with that invention that you came up with, even though it might be novel, it's not an innovation. That's the big difference. The other thing is that we have a few future-focused leaders. We're not looking for today, we're looking in the long term. We look to align our innovation efforts with our business strategy. If you have serendipitous innovation or serendipitous ideas, that isn't an innovation either. You want to have innovation that is focused on what the strategy is. You have to have the culture. If you don't have this culture, this becomes almost like, let's say, the soil that has to be prepared so that all these other activities can happen. Culture is very important, and culture goes right along with competencies. You may think, well, what do you mean innovation competencies? Well, we'll talk a little bit about those in a second. Yes, you do need to have some innovation competencies, and there's ways to measure them and to assure that that you're doing a good job. Okay, wait a second, I skipped one. No, I didn't. So exploiting insights. So we want to use information, have data-driven decisions. We want to manage uncertainty. This is one of the biggest areas that innovation management provides, the managing of uncertainty. The innovator's dilemma, okay, as Christensen wrote about, who passed away recently, he mentions, look, we all go into these courses and MBA courses, management courses. And what are the first things that they tell you? Well, look at the ROI of a project. Look at the return on investment. If you don't have a certain level of return on investment assured, don't get into the project. Well, the problem is that if you do it that way, you're never going to be an innovator. Innovation requires risk. It's not risk without control. It's not just any risk. It's managed risk. And it's that managed risk that moves us from an older quality management or excellence system into an innovation system, because you're going to be able to focus your efforts and your resources, but in such a way that you take, that you manage that risk. You assume some risk, but you manage the risk. The other thing is adaptability. If people had been, if companies had been using this innovation management system prior to COVID, a lot more of them would be able to survive over this this difficult time period. And lastly, a systems approach. So the old way with an idea-driven innovation model, we've basically focused on ideas. I remember back in 1998 or so at Florida Power and Light, which is the first company outside of Japan to win the Deming Prize. I used to work there. We developed a Bright Ideas contest. So we wanted to get as many ideas as possible. Problem is that the ideas didn't have any focus. The first time we opened it up, we have 14,000 ideas. 14,000 ideas. What do we do with 14,000 ideas? We spent a bunch of time trying to determine, trying to filter them, trying to determine which ones were even worth dealing with. Why do it that way? That's not very efficient. You have suggestion systems, you have open hackathons, all those different ways of doing things that just aren't focused. And you end up, eventually you'll define it better, you estimate, you select, you do a project charter, and eventually, you can get some of them that might get you into a successful commercialization. But you wasted a lot of energy and resources. And it's very risky because all that time is wasted. You should be spending that time on things that are important to your organization. So how does the management system work? Well, first and foremost, it ties the innovation strategy to the business strategy. Once you have the innovation strategy, now you have an intent. You know what it is that you want an innovation for. Once you have the knowledge of where you want to head your innovation efforts, now you can say, okay, what are the opportunity areas that we have that can address the innovation that we want to have, or the intent? Well, from those opportunities, we can develop ideas that are focused on those opportunities, not just any ideas that are focused. We then create concepts, but notice, this is not the typical funnel that you saw earlier, okay? This is not a funnel. This is a way of non-linearly, with a non-linear fact, very important, non-linear, that you create your concepts. From the concepts, you can validate them, but from there, you could either go into developing solutions or back over to identifying the opportunities again. You could mix and match different concepts together, different ideas together to develop concepts. This is not a linear step-by-step process. You have to conduct these steps, but it's not necessarily in a linear fashion, okay? Once you get to this point, you can deploy your solutions and you end up with much more value than you had before. Your results have been found by using outcome-driven innovation to be improved over 83% of the time. These three steps here I mentioned earlier about idea management, these three steps here, that's idea management, where you identify your opportunities, you create your ideas, you validate them, you then create the concepts from multiple ideas. What is it that I can put together that makes sense? You validate it, and then you go back and get additional opportunities or get rid of them as time goes on through portfolio management, ideation and innovation management, portfolio management, different from project portfolio management. This is one idea management process that was applied to an innovation project. We start out with a value proposition. This is an actual case, right? We start out with a value proposition and what was the horizons, the innovation horizons that we wanted to focus on. And, from there, we came up with 166, 166 different project ideas, okay? From those project ideas, we determined what was the idea, what was the expected outcome from it, and then created concepts. We organized those ideas together for those that made sense to work together, that dealt with the same outcome, right? And then we went ahead to validate them, to create our innovation milestones, our project milestones, our precedence relationships, and eventually come up with a project budget. From there, we went to all the way from 116 project ideas down to 29, and then our presentation recommended 6 projects for phase 1. I mentioned innovation horizons. Well, there's actually 4 horizons. I show 3 of them here. The first one is, let's call it Horizon 0. Horizon 0 is continuous improvement. It's what everybody says today is an innovation. Whenever we do continuous improvement, oh, we innovated, we created something new, we improved things. Well, that's not really an innovation. That's the lower, if it is an innovation, if you want to call it an innovation, that's fine, but it's the lowest level of innovation possible. Okay. All right. So once you decide if you're going to have innovation that is just optimizing what you currently have today, or coming up with products for existing customers, that's your first horizon. So as you can see, the how to win goes from using existing products and assets to developing new products and assets. And the where are you going to be playing, where, what market, and so forth. You're either going to do it through your existing customers, through those adjacent markets that are similar to yours, or to totally new markets, targeting totally new customers. The transformational Horizon 3, that's, let's say, like an iPhone, right? When the iPhone first came out, it was a breakthrough. It was something brand new. The market didn't even exist for it. You would say, well, yeah, it was just an improvement over Motorola or over BlackBerry, but no. What it was able to bring together was a totally new type of product that just didn't exist before. This here is a typical innovation portfolio. I mean, I've simplified this. And what we have is 3 different categories here. You have an innovation driver, you have an innovation output, okay? And then you have an innovation quotient. The innovation driver is how well, sorry about that, is how well the project deals with or is aligned to the innovation drivers, the drivers of strategy of the organization. So the higher it is, the more important the project. The innovation output is how well can that project bring the desired intent that we have, the desired outcomes that we're looking for, okay? So combining those 2, your innovation driver with your innovation output, you end up with your innovation quotient, or your IQ. So the higher the IQ, the better the project. And then you can balance your portfolio based on your drivers and based on your horizons. So this is just an example of one. The circles here represent, as you can see in the next slide, the bigger the circle, the higher the IQ it is, right? So in this case, we were balancing the portfolio. I can't show you all the details. It's a little bit of a you know, IP type discretion that I have to keep. So, but basically, what you do is you take with looking at your IQ and looking at your ROI, right? You then put the circle in the spot where it most fits. And what you want is something that is huge, that's big, and that it is in the top quadrant, right? So this project, for example, is very likely to be recommended, even though we don't really know right now, just from looking at this, how much it is. But as you go further down these lines here, you will actually get more and more projects approved. So if you have a bigger budget, you'll be moving down and approving more projects. If you only have enough for one project, you do this project by itself. Now this is balancing your portfolio based on your drivers. Okay. You can also balance your portfolio based on your innovation horizons. So in this case, we grouped the H1 and H2 okay, which is basically optimization or continuous improvement of what you have. And those actually turned out to be the ones that were most important right now, because they had the least amount of risk, okay? That doesn't mean that we didn't have some transformational ones like this one available. So depending upon what level of resources you have, you could easily move this line here down a little bit further. This line represents your budget, okay? And once you're down there, then you could recommend both of those. It's a simple tool, but it's very effective. So let's do an analogy here. If for some of you like myself, my age and so forth, you know, back in the 90s, what did we have for purposes of sorry about that? What did we have for purposes of keeping track of our friends and our colleagues and our clients? We had a Rolodex. If I wanted to call somebody, I go to the Rolodex, pick up their card, notice what the phone number was, pick up the phone, mark the phone, right? Or if I wanted to send them an email, which back then an email was available, you know, you would again go back to the card if they had their email there, type in the email address, send them a note. Well, today you don't have to do that. Why don't you have to do that on your iPhone or your Android phone? Because you have an operating system. The IMS, the Innovation Management System, is the same as the iPhone or the iOS or the Android operating system. It's the one that allows you to go from the Amazon, because you were already signed in based on your information, or go over to your contacts, and from your contacts make your phone call, or from your contacts make your email, or even from your email, if you get somebody else's phone number, you can click on that and you make a phone call. That doesn't happen unless you have a very good integrated operating system. Think of the innovation management system as an operating system, and that gets you to understand what the difference is. In the past, for innovation, we had ideas, we had design thinking, we had jobs to do, we had all sorts of, we have in IOIP, we have books that carry over 170 different tools for innovation. But it wasn't until we had a standard operating system like the IMS, like the Innovation Management System, that it all came together, because now it's all tied to the business strategy, and it's all tied to specific processes to manage your resources and your risks and your outputs. Simply put, the innovation management framework that's in the IMS is, first of all, discovering what it is that you want to plan and work at, developing it, learning from it, and then having key results from it. In your discovery, that includes your organizational context, your leadership, your planning. This, for those of you who are familiar with 9001, this should be very familiar, okay? Except, of course, the focus is not on quality, it's on innovation. But the high-level structure is similar. You first find out how the innovation is looked at from internal and external strengths and weaknesses for your organizational context. You develop leadership, and you look for culture, and develops culture for innovation throughout the company. You plan what it is you want to focus on, which then gets you into your operational processes, which is that idea management process and the development and deployment process for innovation. And then you have your support resources, and lastly, you evaluate and continuously improve. So this cycle, this overall, is your innovation management system. I don't know if I'm going too fast. If anybody wants me to stop or slow down a little bit, I'll be glad to. Okay, so this is from the standard. Okay, this is the finally, after about 2 years of fighting about what the structure should be, this is what the structure, the picture for the structure finally became. You saw before when I showed you the insides, these 5 major innovation processes. See, if you look at the context, the leadership, the support, the planning, the performance evaluation, and the improvement, okay, that's basically the same as 9001. The focus is different, but it's the same high-level structure. It's here that it's all very different. The intent leading to the value. So you start by understanding that, by understanding this centerpiece. So you have in the centerpiece, you have what I mentioned before. You have to identify your opportunities, create your concepts, validate, develop, and deploy. I think that even in the standard today, these areas are nice and pretty well defined. But that new standard 56007 is going to go a long way to defining it even more. Developing solutions and deploying solutions still needs more, in my opinion, more development work. But regardless, the overall processes are in there. So leadership defines your commitment, your vision, your strategy, similar to 9001, except focused on innovation. Your context looks for your external and your internal dynamics. What are the social, the technical, and now more than ever, the social aspects and the sustainability for climate change and people and much more than just profit are now considered super important for the vision and for looking at your external and internal dynamics. So all of that has to be focused into your innovation management system, leading to the intent. So we're going to talk a little bit more about competencies, but you look for your resources, who's available, how much does it cost, do we have the people, do we have the equipment, do we need to get some other kind of internal or external support for the project. Then we have the overall plan, do, check, act. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. So you plan your objectives, where you're going to go, what are you going to do about it. And in here comes here and in 7, but mostly here is where you start designing your portfolio, your innovation management portfolio. All right, that portfolio has to be similar to the one that I showed you, where you're looking at your innovation drivers, you're looking at your innovation output, and you're coming up with your innovation quotient, so that constantly, once you've designed it there, then on a regular basis in operations, you're looking to see if there needs to be any adjustment. Is there a project that is somewhere here? Is there an initiative that is somewhere in this area that maybe now needs to either be combined with another one that came through or that wasn't used before? Or do we need to take away some of the resources that we currently have allocated to that initiative and give it to something else? Or just kill the initiative altogether, put it aside, we'll use it next time. Now, what does that mean? What is put it aside, use it next time? Remember I told you about your patents and your intellectual property and so forth. All that has to be, there has to be a repository for all that, in addition to a repository for all of these initiatives and all of these ideas that came up from your intent. And that goes into a knowledge management system repository, so that drives this whole process over time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. You can go back to what went well, what went poorly, and you have ways of gathering competitive information and so forth into that knowledge management system, so as to make your management of innovation a lot easier. So you see how this all works together. Well, let me reiterate this point. Because 9001 exists, think of it as 56,002 and soon 50,001 as an evolution from quality with the same high-level structure to innovation. Okay, and that doesn't mean quality goes and dies or anything. That just means that you now have another level that you want to attend to in the innovation management system, and this can be used to help improve your quality, obviously, right? So, so if you are already certified, if a company is already certified to 9001 2015, the work necessary to be certified to 56,002 is much less. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we were going to focus a little bit on competencies. A lot of people think that innovation you're sort of born with. Well, not really. It's important to identify to what degree does a person, an individual, have the right competencies to be a good innovator. So they need to be able to break inertia, to be able to adapt, to think differently. They need to stress versatility, that they can do multiple things, not just adapt, but their capabilities are wide, right? And they can do certain things better than others and move around. Then they need to be able to encourage creativity, not just for themselves, but to encourage creativity as leaders for other people that they're leading. They also need to develop innovative equipment. They need to develop the tools. They need to know how to use the tools. That's very important. The other is to build resilience. You need to be perseverant. You need to be able to take a no and make it a yes, right? You need to really understand and believe in what you're doing. And lastly, probably the most important, is you need to know how to focus on value creation. So we have, working with PCA, our partners out of Guatemala, we have a way to measure in a 360-degree fashion these competencies on a person-by-person basis. Also then, for a particular group or for the overall organization, we take those and roll them up to give you an index of how well the company is doing in terms of their competencies for innovation. And how do we change that? How do we move that up? A move of just a 10% move up in competencies can lead to, from our experience, over 100% in terms of the improvement in the innovation projects and the outcome of the innovation projects. The other thing that it does is allows you to determine which people you can put together into a very innovative team. If, for example, Katarina and I were being measured, and she's good at 3 of these competencies. She's good at 1, 3, and 5. Okay, but she's not very good at 2, 4, and 6. Well, what if they measure me and I'm very good at 2, 4, and 6, but not very good at 1, 3, and 5? Well, the system can identify those gaps and fill them and make recommendations on putting Katarina and myself into the same team, making a very strong innovation team. Okay. All right, lastly, we have the key features, just as a summary. We want to focus on value creation. So all that system stuff that I talked about, none of it is that important if you don't have these. You have to focus on the realization of value. It's not a matter of just coming up with ideas. It's on ideas that lead to value, okay? And of course, to the strategy of the organization. Innovation, vision, and strategy. So it's ideas that focus on value to address your innovation, vision, and strategy. You have to have the culture. If you don't have the culture, all this stuff just goes away, okay? You have to have collaboration. People need to work together. They need to understand, not only work together internally with different teams, but also bringing in your suppliers, your interested parties, stakeholders, and make them work, or not make them, but help them in terms of how they can help themselves, how they can help you. In the book that I wrote back in the 90s, okay, one of the things that I dealt with a lot was how to create supplier partnerships. so that you're not just in an antagonistic relationship with your suppliers who are just trying to lower their price. You can help them get better, and at the same time, they'll be delivering a better product or service to you. Intellectual property, we mentioned earlier, key area, and also a key part of your knowledge management system, your strategic intelligence, helping you make decisions based on data and the knowledge management system, your innovation portfolios, which get planned up in the planning area, but gets operated on a regular basis in the operations, and your innovation metrics, which is what 56008 is working on right now. Some of the key aspects then of the benefits for this: increased ability to manage uncertainty and risk. As I mentioned before, this is no longer just innovation by luck. It's managed innovation. You want to know exactly what resources you're going to be using, what risk are you going to be taking, and making sure that you do have adequate controlled levels of risk. Improve sustainability and resilience. These are key words now for many things, but think about it. If you could have an innovation management system that leads you into a sustainable enterprise, okay, not just sustainability in terms of the environment, a sustainability in terms of your enterprise, where it's resilient and it can be there, it'll always be there. It's supposed to be a continuous concern, right? That's what a business is. Well, let's make sure that it is sustainable. How do you do that? You use innovation management to make sure that you can be sustainable. And lastly, just a little talk about the innovation bibliography. The framework for innovation is I co-authored with Frank Boll, Jim Harrington. You probably have heard of them more than myself. Myself and Brett Trusco. Brett is the CEO of IOIP, and Frank and I are business partners in the 2020 Innovation. And then you have the Time Management Excellence book, which I wrote co-authored one of the larger chapters in it. And then these books are very good from Harrington and Boll, Innovation System Cycle, the Innovation Tools Handbooks that I mentioned to you, that have over 170 different tools inside them. Deming, Business Innovation for Dummies, which we're working on now, and Knowledge Management Excellence, which are Harrington and Boll as well. If you have any questions about it, this is available right now in Amazon in both hardcover and in Kindle. And lastly, I want to make sure that I mention again IOIP. I think it's very, very necessary for the innovation professional to work with colleagues to develop themselves, to certify themselves in terms of being a certified innovation professional, and or a certified lead auditor. Right now, we have developed and certified 18 56002 lead auditors. Okay, I don't know that there's others. I think there's certifying some of those in Spain as well. But that's a very difficult course and certification. Frank Boll, Bill Craddock, and myself were the instructors on that course, developers and instructors, and we'd love to help you if you're interested in that. We have that available in Spanish as well. We don't have Portuguese, but we have English or Spanish, and Portuñol maybe, but no Portuguese. And if you need to call me, this is my cell phone, my email address. You'll be getting copies of this PDF, but I do, if you want, just go to www. If you go here, let's see if it comes up. This is the innovation management from 2020 Innovation, and we have our four major areas: innovation management, quality management, strategic management, and business resilience and sustainability. So if you want, just touch here and that'll come to us and we can get together. Okay. Thank you very much. I open it up for questions.
Thank you, Rick. We're now expecting that the audience can post some comments or questions, and they can use the Q&A platform or even the chat of this session. So, or if you're willing to speak up, just please raise your hand and we'll give you a voice. So we'll wait just a minute for people to post their question or comment. Any questions? Anybody want to participate?
I must have done a great job, huh?
Yes, I believe so. Everybody's cleared now, so not a problem. Well, anyway, I believe if you're like you said, you shared your contacts, so you're able to answer any doubts that can come up after this session.
Yep. Be glad to.
Yeah, so people have access to your contacts.
Now, Katarina, you have the PDF. I sent that to you last night, so you're welcome to distribute it to the participants.
To this audience, yes. Okay, then I will. So,
has anybody? I guess I'm going to ask a question. Has anybody in? No, we got a few minutes. Has anybody already started using in any of the companies that they know about the 56002 standard? Had anybody heard of the 56002 standard before today? Okay. Anna says yes, but never used. Okay. Well, I challenge you. I challenge you to start using it, especially if the company that you're working at or that is your client is already ISO 9000 certified. Listen, in Latin America, well, in IOIP, we have 4,000 members, okay, throughout the world. One of the strongest areas that's coming up very quickly is Latin America. Currently, we have 12 countries in Latin America that have an IOIP chapter. I'll answer that question in a second. And it's really becoming a huge draw for in terms of people wanting copies of the standard. In Japan, it is the standard that is being purchased the most often than any other standard right now. And in South Korea, it's also being used a lot. And Sweden, oh my God, Sweden is one of the leading countries in this whole effort. I can't say that the U.S. is, that's what we're pushing. I mean, we're making headway, but it isn't the fastest growing. It's definitely Latin America for now, and soon to be all of Europe. I mean, Sweden is up there, UK is up there, Germany's up there, but we need all of Europe to be doing that. And Spain, and Portugal were some of the leaders right up at the beginning historically. I know Spain has been applying it a lot. I don't know what the status is in Portugal. Mr. Fernandez, how long have you been working in this business? I started in this company in 1991, but focusing on innovation probably about 10 years ago. Yeah. Any other questions? Cheers.
Yeah. Well, I guess everybody's happy with your presentation, so that's a good thing. That's a good comment.
Well, you know, the other thing that they can do, I don't know exactly what the method is, Katarina, but every country, Portugal, Spain, you know, every country has a mirror committee similar to the one that I showed earlier for the United States. So it isn't just a US thing. Every country, well, 59 countries, but all of the European countries have a mirror committee. Mirror committee meaning it's like a mirror of the ISO international one, okay, in their country. And that mirror committee usually allows experts from the country to participate in the development of these standards. So I urge you, okay, to find out who is heading up that mirror committee, and if you want, send me a link and you know, send me an email or something, and I'll help you find out. It's mostly on the ISO website anyway, but I'll be glad to help you find out, and that will help you not only understand the standard, but now you're going to be able to help in the molding of 56001, which is much bigger than 56002 is, because 56002 is an innovation management system, but it's a guidance standard. It's not a requirement standard like 9001 is. But now we're working on 56001, and that will be a requirement standard. And I think that would be very helpful if you could be part of that.
Well, is there any other questions? Well, guess not. So
Well, I'm happy, and I'm actually honored to have been invited here, Katarina. And if anybody else asks any questions later, please send them to me. Okay.
yes, we thank you very much for your presence. It was very interesting, and we're glad that you accepted the invitation. And in the name of Professor Fernando Almeida, we thank you for being here. I don't know if you want to wrap it up, or you.
I think look. Basically, if you've been around as long as I have, you know, you see the changes in industry and the focus. If you go back some, you had first like project management. That was the focus, PMI, project management. Then it became quality management. Well, now it's innovation management, and it's you're getting it at the foundational level. Okay, so for somebody who is young, that's going to be around for a while, you get into it now, you're going to have a career for the next 30, 40 years of a lot of success. So I do think you should try to get into that field if you can. I'll leave it with that.
Okay, that sounds perfect for me. We thank you all for being here, all the audience, and we'll see you next session. So thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon. See you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.